Without a doubt, it's the most famous 57 Chevy on Earth, spotted at countless newsstands for decades.
It's been on 19 covers of the magazine. It's had 91 stories written since 1965.
I used to hide the magazine in my history book in high school.
It was always evolving.
It's taken on many different forms. It's gone through many transformations.
Now it's a new transformation for this icon.
Project X has taught generations of Americans how to build cars.
It is the oldest living project vehicle anywhere on the face of the earth.
Project X. It's also a movie star.
One of my favorite movies of all time was Hollywood Nights, and the scene where he races the Cobra.
It has so much history. So many people want to be a part of it.
And now, a few lucky guys are getting to be part of it.
Pretty cool to me to actually be touching it and working on it and making parts for it.
It's Project X, going beyond and even further.
Now we're getting to take it to its next step.
Right now on Hot Rod TV. The 57 Chevy. For enthusiasts and car builders like designer David Ross, it's the automobile for the ages.
The 57 Chevy just has endured, and it has been translated in every shape and form of an enthusiast expression. It's been pro-streeted, which is what this is. It's been pro-toured currently. That's a current trend. It's been restored. It's been raced.
In 1965, popular Hot Rodding magazine turned a 57 into a rolling test lab for performance parts. This ever-changing project car was named Project X. Readers would write in and suggest constant upgrades and modifications for the hot rod. Well, that was then, and this is now. And now it's the 50th anniversary of the 57 Chevy. As part of that celebration, the team here at GM Tech Center in Warren, Michigan had a radical idea.
Late last year, we were in discussion with GM Performance Parts about building a 57 Chevy to celebrate the anniversary, 50th anniversary, of course, as well as the reintroduction of the ZL1 crate motor. Originally, we were talking about building a convertible and doing that.
Enter Ed Zinke from Popular Hot Rodding.
We were just talking cars, and Ed had said that they still had Project X, and they were interested in getting the car redone. And I thought about it some more on the plane, and as soon as I landed, I called Dr. Jamie Meyer from Performance Parts and said, hey, Doc, what do you think about doing Project X for our 57 instead of doing a convertible?
Well, the good doctor concurred.
This is really an icon in the hot rod world. You know, Project X has taught generations of Americans how to build cars. It comes down to that.
With everyone on board, Popular Hot Rodding magazine delivered Project X to the GM Tech Center, where design master David Ross got right to work.
Project X is like the car, you know, and immediately, you know, all the history of that car pops into my head, and I get cold, you know, sweaty palms.
It's always been a serious hot rod.
They really wanted to play up the pro street side of it, and but in a contemporary way, and this is something that I've been thinking about anyway, so I kind of started thinking about what the car should be like at that point.
David remembers the many faces of Project X.
It's taken on so many forms, but really the way I remember it is that awesome black top kind of, you know, the movie car and stuff, and the pro street look really plays off that.
Before long, 12 weeks of work passes on Project X, with the debut of the new version now only a mere half a month away.
We're right now, from the point that you see this car, we're 2 weeks from completion. Realize 2 weeks from now, we need to be able to leave black marks in the parking lot.
Today, the 427 engine meets a remade frame and restored body. The motor is a recreation of the ZL1, a power plant dating back to the 60s.
Being a 57 Chevy, and actually 08 being the 50th anniversary of the big block Chevy. And for us, it's the 40th anniversary of GM Performance Parts. We decided to come out with a 427 off the original ZL1 427 that came out in '69. So it made sense with such a historical crate engine coming out, it should come out in a very historical project like Project X.
With this under its hood, Project X will be hitting some very high speeds.
It'll be all aluminum cylinder heads. It'll make about 480 horsepower.
As many people know, the Project X did have a 427 in its past, so it kind of helps us go around again, not only restoring it to probably better than its original production quality, but using the same power plant that was in it once before.
That 427 will take orders from a 5-speed Richmond manual transmission. Coming up, Project X gets modified by way of a very big name.
They took a section of the Corvette C6, spliced it in.
Everybody wants Corvette suspension in their hot rod.
We'll see it get ready for its big debut when we return with more of Project X right here on Hot Rod TV. Project X was a legendary '57 Chevy.
I followed the car my entire career.
In popular hot rodding magazine, it was a test lab for Pro Street performance parts. Now, it's being recreated again, this time for the anniversary of the '57 Chevy. It's a car that was always evolving.
Project X it's had a number of times that it's been under the knife, and certain pieces of the car had been done 15 years ago. Other pieces could have been done 5 years ago. It had a feeling that the entire car had never been done at once, that they had not completed every piece of the car.
In this incarnation, a lot of attention was focused on the frame.
Back in about 1953, when this frame was originally designed, it was all done with all drafting tables, all hand-drawn components. Every measurement was laid out by hand. Everything would have been measured with traditional scales. So we took the frame out of the vehicle, set it up on our surface plate here. This is a large steel plate with measuring equipment. We scanned the entire frame, and then we created the math that represents what a 1957 Chevy frame is.
But this time around, it's getting Corvette suspension.
What we're going to do here is we're going to assemble the Corvette front suspension onto Project X.
They'll adapt modern Corvette suspension onto a vintage frame.
This, from here to here, about 200 millimeters is the original 57 frame. And then we cut it, well, actually right about here. From here back is the original 57.
Everybody wants Corvette suspension in their hot rod.
With the rebuilt body finally going onto the reworked frame, Project X is creating a lot of excitement here in the shop.
Now this car is starting to come together, and you have a genius designer named Dave Ross penciling this car, and then you have these technicians here making his creative genius come to life. I think the Prime Media folks are going to be blown away when they see this car.
This GM shop does everything by the numbers. They use precision equipment, including a few tools you might not find in your garage.
What we're doing right now is calibrating the portage arm to the vehicle so we can center the body on the frame. So we check the fore-aft, cross car, and the height. Try going down right there. Okay, perfect.
Want to check tire size? Check this out.
The device we use is a section of the tire and wheel combination that we plan on using in this vehicle. We'll bolt it up and spin it and make sure that we've got adequate clearance for the tire and wheel combination.
Project X is getting dozens of modifications, and some of them are right up on the very front of the car.
There used to be a bumper guard in this housing, so what we did is modified it and outfitted it with a fog light out of a Denali. We're looking for a place to put some fog lights, and this was the place.
This team defines car building experience.
The team that's building the car is basically made up of all guys that they're engineering technicians. That's their role here. Normal day-to-day stuff. They build the cars of the future. So virtually any car that GM offers today on a production lot, these guys were a part of the first ever one built.
Brian here modifies a car born long before he was.
Enlarging these tunnels or ribs or whatever you like to call them that go down the hood and turn them into the functioning air intake. Kind of starts out making a piece like this for the lower part that slides in there. These are the bullets that we turned up on the CNC lathe. Basically, it simulates the exact profile and shape of the original bullet that came out of the 57 hood.
It's a new school twist on an old school hot rod. Coming up, Project X gets more high-tech than ever before.
We use electronic controls to either go to open headers or to go through a closed exhaust system.
And David is still designing.
I wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. I can't sleep. I have an idea.
We'll be back with a lot more Project X on Hot Rod TV. Project X was in 91 issues of Popular Hot Rodding. It was a test lab for new parts and Pro Street ideas. Now it's being reinvented for the anniversary of the 57 Chevy.
Just to be able to touch the car, to be able to sit in the car and drive the car, and then add to the fact that now we're getting to take it to its next step is a tremendous honor for my whole team and myself.
The engine's getting upgrades that will assist modern-day accessories.
It keeps a lot of the old components, and there's some newer components because we're going to have air conditioning on this one. It allows it to get a more modern belt system on it. Just another item you can buy in the catalog.
This GM team is improving upon the 57 Chevy.
For anyone that's ever driven a 1957 Chevy, you're aware that the cowl shakes in the car. There was never, when the cars were designed originally in 57, the only front body mount from the front of dash forward was in the center of the core support. So excluding that, there was nothing to hold the front end of the car from flexing separate than the frame. So we've taken the opportunity to integrate a front structure that adds body mounts to the front. We're integrating the radiator into this mount now. We've pulled the radiator 4 inches forward and lowered it down 4 inches.
And they've improved the hood latch as well.
Everybody that's ever worked on one has knocked a spot right in the middle of their head from the hood latch. We wanted to try and correct some of those things. We've eliminated the production 57 hood latch, and we're installing Solstice hood latches on each side into the top of the core support, and that allows us to retain the hood, eliminate some of the inner fasteners.
And these fenders are attached in a whole new way.
Our fender is actually attached from underneath, so you get a totally clean look inside the motor compartment. We used deck lid hinges from a 2007 Seville, and now we have a gas strut controlled hood hinge that gives us a higher hood angle so that you have more under hood access and more visibility, all by doing this one system.
Project X is a Pro Street machine that's built to race. So this team needs to make it both fast and street legal.
We use electronic controls to either go to open headers or to go through a closed exhaust system so that the car can be street driven. That's a simple switch under the dash, and we use valves inside the headers, inside the exhaust that we use to control that.
Normal street driving, when you want the headers closed, what we're going to do is we're going to put run the exhaust system back underneath the body along the frame. So what we need to do is try and fab in a flex joint, which will go into the fender, into the header, and then from there we'll take a pipe and run it through the body and then back alongside the frame, and then we're going to dump it out behind the rear axle.
When running open headers, Project X will route exhaust through a pair of holes located in the corner of the fenders. Elsewhere, there's even more changes.
One of the tricks that we incorporated in this car is, as all you traditional 57 Chevy owners know, these slats are actually straight. And we took them out, sectioned the fender, put them in at an angle. We matched the angle of the headlight so that they continue on, and it gives the car a different look than it would have if they were just the traditional straight line.
Whether it's about performance or design, it's safe to say that the team here has reworked this 57 like no crew in the car's history. That says a lot, because Project X has spent its lifetime being modified.
You know, we've probably made conservatively 500 changes to the car. There's not a single thing in this car that we haven't touched.
And they'll be addressing those touches right up until the moment of the car's debut. Touches like the new seats.
These seats are, we found them in a new STS. We have all the adjustments, all the cool stuff in here with all the benefits of a modern seat.
Of course, the back seat will have to match.
We're doing everything in black leather. It's actually what we call a solar reflective leather. It's a black leather that's not going to get hot when this car is sitting out in the sun. Yeah, you want that top to go back as far as you can.
And how about electric windows with retro switches?
When it comes time for the window switches, instead of using a traditional window switch, this is actually a switch, and these mount in the door, and a production handle goes back on them. It'll look just like it's a manual window, but when you just touch the button, it'll go up and down.
This entire team is taking this project very personally.
When we go home, we're working our own cars, and we do it regardless. And to have the opportunity to do this, it's almost like it's my own car I'm working on. So I'm at home, I wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., I can't sleep, I have an idea. Some of these sketches I've done for this car have happened in the middle of the night because it's like, oh, and I get up and I'm drawing it and come up with the ideas. These are all real enthusiasts that are really into the cars, and that they're doing this out of passion more than anything else.
There's progress here, but time's running out.
As you can tell by looking at the car, it's still a long ways from done, but in our schedule right now, we're 7 days from completion.
Will it be ready in 7 days? Well, this crew is feeling confident.
I've seen a lot of cars through the years, been doing cars all my life, and I think when the public sees it, they're just going to be knocked off their feet.
Project X from Popular Hot Rodding magazine was America's favorite project car. Now, after months of work, the GM Tech Center has reinvented it for the 50th anniversary of the '57 Chevy. It's now time to show it to the top man at Popular Hot Rodding, Ed Zinke.
Fantastic, guys. Fantastic. Fantastic.
The team is proud.
Feels like a good accomplishment. It's nice to see it at this point.
Absolutely blown away. The labor of love and the work and quality that the guys put into this car is absolutely fantastic. They totally understand here at GM the heritage that this car has. Once you get into the real details, you just see fine-tuning of things that just weren't there on the original car. Just absolutely gorgeous and stunning work.
Crew members are still in awe.
Read about it when I was a small child and followed it through the years, and now have the opportunity to work on it. It's probably one of the greatest things happened to me.
Here's something I have to show you. The center bar going across is all handmade, picking up the 427 logo, which is the surprise is sitting underneath the hood there. We've got what used to be bumperettes on the end here are now fog lights as well. You've got, halogen headlights. This whole hood has been redone, and you really can't tell, but from what they tell me, they actually radialized and made these larger by 30%. This is now the cold air intake.
And that's not all.
They've handcrafted these two tubes that come in, and they're one on each side. They feed a central air cleaner system, which in the past, this would normally be bolted down on top of your carburetor, but not here. They've actually integrated it into this hood and drops down onto this engine. It's just phenomenal. The thought process that went into that, the craftsmanship that goes into it, you just don't find that kind of stuff every day. Very, very seldom, quite honestly. It takes a lot of design, a lot of thought process, and quite honestly, a labor of love to put that together.
I think the moldings on the side, the rear quarter trim moldings were quite a project to put on because they're solid billet moldings, and if we screwed up, we didn't have any spares to redo it.
Details are everywhere.
The Project X logo is you'll see it on the outside as well as the inside, both on the door panels, it's on the dash, the console, as well as your center skirting here. That's all handmade.
It's a monument to craftsmanship.
You don't hear a door close on a brand new car like that. Well, maybe a GM.
Work on a project like this, the amount of hours you start to wonder if it's really worth it until you get to this point and you just sit back and you go, this is worth it.
It's a work of art, but everybody agrees Project X was built to be driven.
We don't want to see you put this thing in a garage.
Well, I guarantee you, between my team and your team, we're going to try and roll that speedometer. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Stay tuned for more Hot Rod TV.
We're back with Hot Rod TV and one very cool '57 Chevy. Project X has been reinvented at the GM Tech Center.
Fantastic, guys. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Now it's on to the SEMA show, where the car will have a grand unveiling.
Thank you for coming out. We've got one amazing car to share with you this morning. We're very excited about this. We've been working on this for a year. We launched our anniversary 427 big block crate engine. It has a long legacy behind it, 50 great years of Chevy big blocks based on the ZL1 all aluminum 427 big block.
Ladies and gentlemen, Project X.
I think we did a good job because everybody recognizes it as Project X and they're feeling very strong and powerful about the rendition that we created. It's begging to get out there and burn the tires. I think that's what's going to happen. You know, you uncork those headers and the thing just comes to life. You tromp on it and it's nothing but a big trail of tire smoke. That's what it's all about.
At the GM track in Mesa, Arizona, it's showtime.
In Michigan right now, there's about 10 inches of snow on the ground, so we needed to go someplace where we could drive Project X.
It's a full schedule.
We're going to hit the circle track, then we're also going to run some of our longer straightaways, and we'll do some acceleration work with the car.
You think of a hot rod that's 50 years old, that's gone through as many generations as this car, and you think of a bad tub job or a bouncy rear suspension. Everything here works really well. You know, the transmission works nice. The engine's got an incredible sound for a box stock crate engine.
It's got low speed drivability. We have a rev limiter chip in this one at 6,800 RPM, and it wants to go faster than that. You step on the throttle and you just, if you're waiting for the engine to nose over before you shift, it just doesn't happen.
So what's in the future?
Man, I can't imagine the next team that gets handed the keys to Project X and think they can do better than this.
It is the world's project car, so it will keep evolving.
You know, maybe there's an alternate fuel power plant that you put in this car. Maybe there's some sort of a hybrid or electrical power plant. That's for future hot rodders to figure out.
And we'll be there when they do, right here on Hot Rod TV. See you next time.